Welcome to Catching Up with Catharsis.
Yes.
Yay.
We have the Dungeon Master, me, Marina. We have the Lore Keeper, Jillian.
Hello there.
We have the, what did you say? The Lore Copier, Mary Jo.
That's me.
Is that what you said last
Sure.
time?
And we have surprise guest.
Surprise guest Zoe!
Yay!
The flirtatious rogue.
Paeris.
But not today.
Are you sure?
Don't tempt me, Marina.
So Zoe will be joining us for what will hopefully be chapters 11 through 20.
Yep.
And we're gonna end book 1, maybe. We're gonna start with, actually, I think it would be really fun if people were up to it, if we took turns reading the chapters, like all 4 of us.
Round robin style?
Yeah!
Let's do
it. Sure.
I'll go first, then Jillian, then Mary Jo, then Zoe.
Someone's gonna have to pass me writing because I don't have.
You got it. 2 mothers, 2 dreams, 1 tree. My most edgy title. Who comes up with this shit? Me.
We love you for it.
I have only myself to blame. Ellie and Gwilla share a dream. The dream begins with Ellie being guided by Andromeda to her mother, who is sitting under the moon tree. Ellie recognizes that this is a dream and is apprehensive, but eventually approaches and gives her mother a hug. Cassia tells her that she's been watching her. Ellie asks where her father is, and Cassia replies that he's in a better place and that she will not move on until Sidra and Ellie are both safe. Cassia then shows Ellie telepathy, a skill passed down through the Aster family. When Ellie asks why her mother never showed her before, she states that she wanted to keep the girls away from the Aster side of the family and their power to keep them safe. Ellie retains the telepathic ability upon Wiki. Willa, meanwhile, is also dreaming of being under a tree and is greeted by a deity, the Wild Mother. Gwilla doesn't recognize her at first, but the Wild Mother explains to Gwilla that she's been watching over her since she was abandoned in the woods as an infant. She comforts Gwilla and tells her that she won't hurt anyone, only heal them, and shows her how, engulfing Gwilla in magic.
There's one other key bit that happens here, and that is the Wild Mother explains that she is the mother of all the Archfey. She explains to Gwilla her children. Sammy, she decides to avoid talking about Zephyr altogether, and refers to Prospera as her most troubled child. Prospera feared death and began to gather tremendous power to stop her, but then she lost her sanity in the process, and the Wild Mother tasks Gwilla with saving her daughter. This quote, I love. This is when she says goodbye to Gwilla. I am life itself, and I could not stand idly by as you withered away. Know this, Gwilla. You will blossom into something much greater, and you will feel like yourself again. I shall never leave you.
I am so honored that you remember the things I say, because I forget that I say them and then I go, ooh, yeah. That was okay.
Yeah, I'm like,
that was okay. That was decent. That quote pertains to why Gwilla asks the Wild Mother why she didn't let her die in the forest as a baby. I mean, who's gonna let you die in the forest as a baby?
Right.
But especially the Wild Mother ain't gonna let that happen. But yeah. She promises that Gwilla, too, that she will be able to feel like herself again soon, alluding to something that happens later on as the players continue to level up.
Yes.
Ellie and Gwilla both wake, leaning against the same tree, and slightly tangled by its roots. Paeris is nearby, drinking coffee, if I remember correctly, and being like, what you doing? Ellie tries her new telepathic ability on them, and Paeris almost pisses their pants. It is at this point that an airship passes over them, and Paeris explains they were invented about 2 years ago and hunt sky whales. Paeris then receives a zipline letter from Beatrice, and this is when we are first introduced to zipline letters. The zipline is essentially kind of like the internet, but magic, and you're only allowed one message a day, one letter a day to anyone you know.
You get really bad minutes.
You get really bad minutes, so you got to use them wisely. But yes, Beatrice is updating the party on May's condition. She is stable, but now in a magical coma. There's also one from Kay that is full of mushy stuff, signed
by her and by Butch. She puts a big paw print on there.
Yes, and
it's very funny.
It's very cute. Abriel makes everyone breakfast, which sucks, but Ellie makes a big show of telling her it's awesome. To Ellie's surprise, Abriel admits that she's never felt romantic feelings for anyone. Or understood the appeal of sex. I'm the same way, Ellie admits. And the two are relieved that they are not alone. And what they don't know in this universe is that's called asexuality.
Exactly.
And it's okay. And we love the asexuals.
In this house, asexuality is cool.
It is.
Abriel then falls asleep, admitting that she stayed up all night praying to Celine. Perhaps this triggered Ellie and Gwilla's dream. Gwilla picks her up and seats her in the cart while Paeris tosses Wally's bag of baubles into the cart as well. To Lilith.
Yep. And it's got the stuff they need to enter Cerulean Falls, specifically the mosses that Dottie was planning to sell.
Yes, mosses and bath salts that Dottie was going to sell to the people of Cerulean Falls. As they continue their journey, Paeris and Lilith sit beside Gwilla, who is upset. She was unable to save Wally and is feeling guilty about it. Paeris makes a quip, and Gwilla realizes that they are both horribly sleep deprived.
And horribly traumatized.
Paeris explains that they didn't sleep because of Zephyr's nightmares, but says that they don't regret talking back to him, causing Zephyr to give them a headache in that same moment.
In real time.
That's a thing that happens throughout, is Zephyr is very petty. And so if you insult him, we often usually have to roll for psychic damage because he's just like, yeah, stop it. Not cool.
He's not cool with it. Lilith and Ellie brainstorm ways to help Paeris with their nightmares, but Paeris isn't quite ready to tell everyone what their nightmares are. Willow reflects that in order for the party to help each other and be effective allies, they all need to be honest with each other. Ellie asks if Gwilla is okay, and Gwilla replies that Ellie asks her that a lot. Ellie says she's going to keep asking until Gwilla is honest with her. Ha 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 ha. And Ellie then assures Gwilla that what happened to Wally wasn't her fault. The party stops for a break in the forest clearing. Ellie asks Atticus to help her with something. Together they figure out the range of Ellie's telepathy. Atticus is amazed and startled, and he says he wants to study Ellie's brain.
Yeah, the exact quote here is, "I don't want you to die, but I'd love to study your brain." To which Ellie says, "Honestly, same." And then they shake hands. And I thought that was such a fun roleplay moment. I like their dynamic a lot. It's very brother-sister-ish to me.
It really is. And Ellie is sort of like the sassy younger sister,
Yes.
and Atticus is like, "Oh, did I actually offend you?" And Ellie's like, "Nah,
Yeah.
bro. It's not that serious." They then attempt picking raspberries.
And then you got a really bad dice roll playing Atticus.
I did. Atticus was awful at it. And he picks
two raspberries.
two raspberries. Ellie pokes fun at him and says he isn't an outside creature. Ellie tells Atticus that he reminds her of her father and that they would have been good friends. Atticus then asks what types of surgery her father had done and how much she knew, then admits to Ellie that he is a trans man and says it's difficult to keep up his masculine appearance all the time. He asks if Ellie would be willing and able to perform gender-affirming surgery. Ellie says she's happy to try and will start researching. Ellie then tells Atticus she thought changelings were born potatoes and figured out their gender later, and Atticus laughs.
For the record, Mary also thought that changelings were born potatoes.
Well, I think that's because the 2 campaigns prior to Catharsis, you did play a changeling who was
you're right.
non-binary. So, yeah.
I was playing a changeling who was a potato.
So there was precedent for that in our group.
When they return, Lilith sees how shit Atticus is at picking raspberries and offers to take a walk with him to try again. Atticus expresses his admiration for Lilith's strength and that he had a similar experience of being disowned by his father. Atticus then brings up Zephyr, and Lilith does her best to explain their relationship, realizing as she does that she was a victim of grooming
Right.
to some degree.
Yeah, not great for Lilith.
Even so, she swears he never took advantage of her sexually, which he didn't, and he probably wouldn't have.
Even though she did have a huge crush on him when she was 13.
Yeah, he was like, nah, I'm not a pedophile. Like, I have limits.
I may be a bastard, but I do have standards.
I have standards. I'm not a fucking creep.
The one thing that Zephyr does do, though, is he does decide that he's going to spy on them.
18 plus, I've seen clean places.
Yes, as they continue talking, Lilith realizes that Zephyr is nearby, and then she states she wished she had Ellie's telepathy to speak with Atticus without Zephyr knowing, and they embrace and share a kiss.
But, I mean, I did not expect Lilith and Atticus to get together that early in the campaign.
I kind of saw it coming. I kind of
Really?
did. I kind of did.
I feel like they had some good vibes.
They had good vibes.
They did, but it was like just in-game, it was such a fast time period.
Yes, but
Atticus Lilith's love interest on purpose, or did you just throw him and see if he stuck?
he was definitely Jillian's love interest
Yes.
on purpose. I had also sort of made him so that if he didn't stick, he would at least be a character I would make somewhat plot relevant and reoccurring, because I personally really like Atticus.
Yeah.
And I like playing him.
Who was the fallback?
The fallback was Toshiro.
What?
Yeah.
He's not my type at all.
You don't know him at all. You have not taken the time.
I mean, like, that's what I think
Green
regrets.
is like offended.
I am
like,
so offended. I made this beautiful man. Listen, listeners. I made Geralt of Rivia Asian and an elf and a tailor who goes, that does look fucking good on you. Like, who wouldn't want to marry a man like that?
He's very stylish.
He's a muscular elf, though, and you know I don't like muscular guys.
I digress.
Anyway, my notes are very flowery, romantic novel-y to the point where I was reading a book, a terrible romance book by the by, and there was a passage in it that was nearly identical to what I had written, and I just threw the book down and walked away. Well, I couldn't because it was for work. It was an
Right, you can't actually be like, I can't read this book anymore.
I threw my mouse down and just took a couple laps around my apartment. And then I just
solidarity.
And then I angrily texted all of you. I was like, I hate this.
Then proceeds to read it. Get paid to read it.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Gwilla and Paeris go on their own walk, and Gwilla confronts Paeris about their reaction to Deidre at the Market of Memories. And they finally admit that Deidre destroyed all of Grindelwood and killed them in the process. Seeing the airship made them think of how much their nieces and nephews would have loved to ride one. And they don't know where those nieces or nephews are.
Or if they're alive.
Exactly.
Or if they're alive. They tell Gwilla that as terrible as the nightmares are, they don't want them to go away, because if they did, they know they'd never see their family again.
Okay, I came up with that in the moment, and that was hard as heck.
That was
honestly.
so
Yeah.
fucking...
Like, I love that.
So profound.
That was such a good acting moment,
Yeah.
story moment. Bitch, it could have been written prior and I wouldn't known the difference.
Yep.
The fact that it was impromptu was pretty cool. Gwilla offers comfort, and Paeris says that they would have liked Gwilla. I will say, in this conversation, and it's not in here, Gwilla said something, and I'm paraphrasing.
I think I've got it here.
You got it? Okay.
Paeris reflects on how they'd love Gwilla, not just because she's awesome, but also because she's strong. To which Gwilla says, are you implying that you're not strong? Because strength doesn't come from appearance alone, it comes from a person's character. Love is a strength. Crying is a strength. Being vulnerable is a strength.
That is also a good quote, but that's not the one I was thinking of.
Really?
I was thinking of the one where specifically Gwilla had the moment of, don't worry, I won't let her touch you again.
Oh.
Where we realize, oh, Gwilla doesn't know her mom like that, but she already knows how she feels about her mom.
Speaking of Deidre.
Oh, yes.
Poppy decides to say something.
Yes, this is when Poppy croaks, my wife, where's my wife? Which becomes a joke for a while where everyone's like, my wife.
but then it gets sad.
Then it gets sad.
I'm trying to remember how it went because I feel like the characters in that moment did kind of acknowledge that and just either somebody played it off or Paeris was like, huh, that was weird.
What bird just spoke?
Well, Sammy had told in the previous session that like they would, if Poppy hadn't spoken, that they would soon enough.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
so
hadn't Poppy been speaking to Paeris?
Technically, yes.
In her brain?
in their brain, but not out loud like that.
Yeah.
And Paeris was just sort of ignoring it and being like, it's fine.
I'm just losing my mind.
Paeris was in denial about a lot of things back then.
I was dead once.
They've been delusional their entire life.
God, the Delulu is strong with this one. Lilith and Ellie do some bonding where they go fishing later, and Lilith can't seem to catch anything. Ellie says that she and Atticus are perfect for each other because neither of them are outside people. Ellie catches many fish, and two of them spit out memory marbles, one being of Sidra, which Ellie pockets and does not admit she knows whose memory it is, and one she truly doesn't recognize. Upon further inspection, she sees it belongs to a drow boy from the previous Sidra marble memory and throws it. The memory shows the boy named Charlie and Sidra in a chain.
Kind of a chain gang type situation.
Yeah, where they're marching through Catharsis City. Charlie and Sidra are talking, and they decide that they are brother and sister, so they have a better chance of staying together. A guard scolds them for speaking and goes to slap Charlie, but Sidra intercepts and takes the slap instead, with very little reaction.
Yeah.
A crowd awaiting a Metamorphosis concert crowds the streets, and Sidra makes eye contact with two people in the crowd. One is a high elf woman with the Aster family crest, and a girl around Sidra's age with blonde hair. The woman asks Sidra her name, and when she hears that she is an Aster, she pleads with the guard to let her go. Sidra lies and says Charlie is her brother too, and they are allowed to leave after Sidra shows the signet ring, and the memory ends. Lilith looks extremely angry, and Ellie looks away before asking Lilith if she hates her, stating that she believes Lilith looks at her as a socially inept child who is rude and blunt and unkind, and Lilith assures Ellie that she does not hate her, stating that she is badass and not afraid to speak her mind, and that she looks forward to combining their magic in the next battle.
I really liked the scene. This was, I think, the first time Lilith and Ellie really interacted one-on-one.
Yes.
And I think that of the relationships in the party, I think that from a narrative perspective, theirs definitely has the most tension, which I think also makes it one of the most fascinating.
I also find that to be really fascinating because you guys are on the polar ends of a lot of issues.
Yes.
And it's so fun to see that sort of try to work itself out in a civilish way.
Yeah, and
where the tensions are.
I don't know, sometimes Ellie is just like explosive though, so.
Yeah.
But
I also think that it's kind of funny though that like, Jillian and I are really good friends.
Yeah.
Not IRL.
Yeah.
So it'll be like, fuck you, Lilith! And then I'll be
Fuck you, Ellie. And then we're like, hey, great game. We'll catch up again in Discord tomorrow.
Sorry.
But no, I do love their dynamic. I think it's very fun. I think that narratively they're really great foils. And I think that, and we get into this more, I think, later on, but I think that Lilith kind of...
Oh, you feel like they're kind of similar?
I feel like that if things had gone differently, I think Lilith could have easily become what Sidra became. If things had gone differently and she hadn't been killed.
That could
be friends.
Why can't we be friends?
Well, I mean, after what she told Atticus in book 3, I don't know if they can.
Well, hold
But
on.
that's
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet at all.
We're not there yet.
I also just wanted to add, like, I think part of the reason we were all kind of chuckling at that moment when Ellie said that about being a socially inept child who's rude and blunt and unkind. It's just like, I don't think any of us or our characters think of Ellie that way in any capacity.
No.
And which is why it's just so funny, because, like, she does, you know, have certain qualities, but, you know,
they're not that extreme.
And that's one thing that I really appreciate about Ellie as a character, is that Mary Jo does such a good job portraying Ellie's flaws.
Yes.
And that, I know with me, like, that's only something I've just started to start exploring myself. It's hard to realize and acknowledge that your character is flawed and that those flaws should be explored, because it's in confronting those flaws they're able to truly grow and not be static.
There are 2 things I want to talk about briefly. Small tangents, if you'll allow me.
Of course, I'm always here for tangents.
My first tangent is going back to the sort of character conflict versus player conflict.
Yep.
Because I've been in a lot of games where it has become the same thing. Yeah. And it's very hard not to blur those lines in some aspects, I think. And it says a lot about both of you that you keep it outside of, like, you keep it inside the game.
Right.
You don't bring it outside the game with you. I've seen literal cousins fight about Dungeons and Dragons. I'm like, it is a game.
Well, I mean, I was just gonna say, I say it all the time. I think I said it earlier tonight. I'm like, guys, it's a game.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm stressing out about XYZ that's happening in D&D. I'm like, it's a game.
It's a game.
And
Like, I'm here for a good time, y'all. Like, don't be flipping out on me.
and when it
For a
gets
good time, not a long time.
and when it gets stressful, the stress is controlled stress. It's in a safe environment, and you're able to explore those feelings in a very safe and healthy way, if done properly.
I think I'm gonna be reusing controlled stress as a reuse in my lexicon now, because I really like that. And the second small tangent I wanted to go on was it was related to character flaws. Yes, I think it's really interesting. The most fun for me is realizing your character has a flaw that is actually a you thing. And and you don't know it until you play Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
I one of the more mainstream versions I recently saw was of Brendan Lee Mulligan in Dimension 20. He was playing, I think his character's name was Evan Kempt, who is essentially a spoof on Harry Potter, where he is the chosen one with the dark powers, but he wants nothing to do with it. But his fellow player, I think her name is Erica, I forget what her character's name was, but in character, Erica said, yeah, Evan only feels like he has value when he's helping people. And Brennan looked at her and had an aha moment, and he looked like he wanted to say something and stopped. And then it was like after the game, they talked about it, and Brennan was like, yeah, I didn't realize that about myself until Erica said it, because I realized that's not an Evan thing, that's a Brennan thing. And I'm like, damn, it's true though.
And I think that extends to not just flaws, but other aspects of your character. I know with Lilith specifically, her backstory is very politically charged. Her character, her revolutionary ideology is very politically charged. And not to get political here, of course, but obviously certain events that happened in the last last quarter of 2023 that still are happening today kind of helped to reinform my own stances on matters like that, and help me through Lilith. I was kind of able to rethink a lot of thoughts I had about that sort of thing, and eventually come to a healthier understanding and place about that. And so it's a way to explore things that are happening not just in your personal life but in the world itself, and recontextualize them, and ultimately find a better way to think about those things and engage with the world.
I think it's really fun when you're the dungeon master because you suddenly get to see all the perspectives and not just a single one.
Yeah.
I think when you're a player, you get to explore different sides of yourself, but when you're a DM, you get to explore different sides of everyone.
Yes.
Like, there are days where I'm like, man, Sidra makes sense. Or like, man, that character, I know they're the bad guy, but I kind of get it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's just kind of fun to like have an outlet to, even that's just like an extension of yourself.
yeah.
So like, I feel like are a lot of feelings that I deal with that in a way do come out in my role as Paeris, and it really just acts as a means of expressing those feelings safely in a social environment without actually, you know,
Feeling like someone's gonna fight you about it.
yeah, or something. Yeah.
I very purposely made Ellie essentially a self-insert in a way. So she is and she isn't, but on purpose. So she is in that we have a very similar personality.
But there are definitely differences.
Oh yes, she isn't in that Mary is much more afraid to say things than Ellie is.
Right.
Yeah.
But Mary has the thoughts that Ellie has, so it's fun to play Ellie because I can just say what I'm thinking and
Yes.
see how people react and see what the world does. And Ellie is much more able to stand up for herself
That's
than
also
I
true.
am.
Yeah.
So I feel like I can almost practice.
Yeah, that's super valid.
Yes.
So yeah. So and I mean I am in therapy and on medication. So that's definitely part of it. But I've also drastically improved in standing up for myself in real life, and I think that part of that has been because I've been able to practice during D&D.
I love this.
Because Ellie's very much like, what are you gonna do? Punch me? And like,
Yep.
Mary would be like, oh my god, they could punch me, but now I'm kind of like, what are you gonna do? Punch me? So like Mary's a lot of talk, but Ellie actually
Walks the walk.
Yep.
And yeah, and Ellie is also kind of like who I wish I was in a sense. Ellie is way smarter than me, and I kind of like strive to be that intelligent.
Yes.
And I also think that I typically play some sort of flavor of healer.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that in another life, if I didn't have the weak stomach that I have, I feel like I could probably be a pretty good doctor. But it's just not how it is. 'Cause
Right.
I like barf at needles.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna work. But like I feel like I have the personality for it in some ways. But anyway, yeah.
That's sort of how I feel about like when I play fighters or like the strong girl classes.
Yep.
I'm not an athletic person by any means.
But you're a strong girl though.
Yeah.
I am pretty. I can lift a bitch. But
And I was gonna say that, Mary, you're very smart.
You are.
yes, you are so smart. Yes. Wait, did you say you weren't smart? Did I
I'm not
miss?
as smart as Ellie.
Okay, I'm about to fight you.
Alright,
I'm about to
everybody,
jump
don't-
over you.
Make sure you cut that noise out because someone's gonna make a sound bite and they're gonna put it on something it shouldn't be on.
In any case, we're almost done with this session summary, so.
Right.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
And we forgot we were
Cut that
talking
out and
about.
put it at the end.
Does anyone have anything they want to add?
Being a DM is just an excuse to flirt with my friends.
Yes. And being a player is an excuse to flirt with the DM.
Hey,
Look out!
I can be hot sometimes.
You're not my flavor of fun, Marina.
That's okay.
Well, I mean,
I'm surprised
You're
of
the
anyone's flavor
you're
of
the
fun.
friend
but
flavor
okay.
of fun, but
Stop that.
you're the friend flavor of fun.
Yay!
You're the perfect friend flavor of fun.
That makes me feel so fluffy and nice inside. You guys are the best people to play with. I can't even tell you how lucky I am. Okay, getting with the program. Finally, the party comes to a walkway lined with blue glowing lanterns leading to a gate where two axolotl guards ask what their business is. God, they were so much fun to play.
Oh, I love the
They
axolotl.
were
So cute.
Lilith shows them Dottie's goods. A third axolotl takes a bag of Dottie's things to an albino tiefling woman who appears to be in charge. She wears a Lunamoth kimono and has the metamorphosis tattoo on her thigh. She sees Dottie's things and is concerned when she looks from her tower down at the party who are at the gates, and she does not see Dottie with them. But she tells the guard, let them in.
Val meets Majesty. We learn that Majesty has some really bad memory issues because she keeps asking about Gwilla because Val's told her about her. And then all of a sudden, an adamantium skeleton appears, and he's pretending to be a guard. And he's got an amulet around his neck. And then Wally says the big moment. I heard you just mention a Gwilla earlier. Funny, I just met a Gwilla. Val trembles, asks if this is some kind of twisted joke. And after a bit of back and forth, he realizes that Gwilla is alive, and he now has something to live for. Wally springs Val from his cell, which gives him the opportunity to finally heal his legs. Majesty, really bad body horror stuff here. Her right side has been entirely consumed by the curse. Aster flowers sprout from her head and from one of her eyes. The other one is swollen shut. She says she thinks it's too late for her, and it's nice to know somebody tried to help her. Wally and Val say, nonsense, we're taking you with us. They limp toward Val, they make their way to the exit, and Majesty says, you guys are going the wrong way, and Val asks, how do you know? And Majesty says that she can see both Prospera and the people affected by the curse because she is cursed. And then Val promises that he will not fail Gwilla twice. So a black feline tabaxi named Koji, named for Marina's cat, scampers toward the gates of Cerulean Falls. He is extremely excitable. He takes a lot of pride in explaining how Lady Getsame adopted all the stray tabaxi and gave them jobs when she took power.
Yes.
The party isn't quite sure what to think, and Paeris is especially concerned that the tabaxi are being used for free labor, but Koji says that she's extremely benevolent, fair, and loving, and then runs off.
And she pays them.
Yes.
I don't know if that was stated enough.
Yeah.
They get paid.
Cerulean Falls is beautiful. It's very much traditional Japanese kind of architecture.
Very
and
feudal Japan meets steampunk.
really pretty. And Lady Getsame estate looms over everything along with the Cerulean Falls Onsen and an airship which carefully docks onto a landing platform. The party then splits off. Willa, Ellie, and Atticus go to a weapon shop run by an androgynous brown man named Zans Shrooman.
Sans.
And
He didn't come to your funeral. Sorry.
spoilers.
Asshole.
Ellie notices that Zan's eyes are blue like her father's, and she realizes that Gilead was his uncle. And so she's super excited to meet this man. This is the first living relative she's met since being resurrected. And Zan tells her that he has no family left, but that he's thankful to have met Ellie. He's also thankful that he has someone to share his drow wares with, and urges Ellie to reconnect with him at some point soon. Meanwhile, Atticus goes on the first of many info dumps when he sees a bunch of rare flintlocks. And Gwilla interrupts him and asks him about making modifications to her staff, and he eagerly agrees, and then they say compliments to each other. It's very cute. Paeris then spots a heavily tattooed orc man giving a woman an ornate phoenix tattoo. They accompany Lilith to the tattoo parlor, and they both decide to get tattoos that have magical enchantments. And the way this works in the game is that basically these tattoos allow you to use a spell once per long rest.
Yes.
And
That's why they cost big money.
And it can be any spell. It doesn't have to be on your, in your class's spell list. At that point, we've got a heavily armored black man covered in tattoos, with his jaw replaced by a kabuki mask style, lower mask, kind of dressed like a Clint Eastwood character, kind of Mammo No Name looking. And Lilith realizes that his name is Jax Brownstone. And she learns that his grandfather Marcus was killed long ago by his great uncle Linus, who was a Foltus freak. And Lilith realizes that this is her...
Foltus freak. I'm sorry, that's a really funny way to say that.
I think that's how you said it.
Oh, okay.
'Cause it's in quotes here. And
I guess I did
Lilith, in a moment that was out of character for me, was super, trying to convince him that she was related. And he's like, I don't know who you are. You look nothing like me. What the hell, woman?
You are such a white Caucasian person.
You are so pasty goth. But he's like, you know what? Fine, we'll get drinks sometimes, whatever. And then Jax mentions his girlfriend Riot, because everyone in this universe is connected somehow. And Paeris realizes they've. I say that with so much love.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
She's just very special
Yeah.
to all of us.
And Paeris basically is like, ooh, Riot. I haven't seen her since I died. I wonder what she's up to. And they
Apparently
demand
dating this guy.
Yeah, they demand to know how she's doing and if Jax is treating her well. Ellie and Lilith then regroup along with the other rest of the party, and they reflect on their very different experiences with meeting these new relatives they did not know existed prior to the session.
Mine doesn't believe I'm their cousin.
Yeah. Lilith is especially disappointed, and then Gwilla has a great moment here where she says that he might not see you as family, but I do. And I think that's really the start of what becomes a really beautiful friendship between Lilith and Gwilla. Yes. That I think really blossoms, especially towards the latter half of book 1.
Lilith.
Along the way, they overhear a conversation between two mobsters about someone not coming back because they got too handsy with her, as well as a conversation about earthquakes getting worse near the ruins due to upset spirits. At that point, they hear a fortune teller say, "Someone reeks of destiny." And I will turn it over to Mary Jo for the tarot reading.
But seriously,
I'm not
seriously, for the purpose of memorizing this moment, we were freaking out over that line. Someone reeks of destiny.
And the way Marina played it, I mean, you can do the voice of.
Well, somebody reeks of destiny. Oh, God. Nasty.
So hearing that Long Island medium ass voice, like, amazing, immaculate moment.
So,
For the highlight reel, okay.
the party and Atticus enter the tent and are given a reading. Paeris receives the card The Fool, which they take offense to. Menagerie explains that it means rediscovery or to reckon with their past. Paeris also receives the Tower, which serves to conquer whatever it represents for them, which Paeris decides is a dragon. Ellie draws the moon. She faces great uncertainty, and she needs to face her fears. She also pulls Temperance, representing someone with whom she will bond very closely, perhaps romantically, and will help her along the way. Ellie's taken aback and asks how a relationship could possibly be in her future. But Lady Menagerie sort of cuts her off by handing her the star card and says that she must protect the child at all costs. Lilith pulls the reverse Hierophant, not reflective of her religion, but rather that she will continue to challenge the status quo, but that she must first learn to liberate herself. She also pulls the Devil, fluctuates between upright and reversed. Menagerie explains that she will have to choose one side of the card and reject the other. Atticus pulls the Emperor, and Menagerie tells him he needs to resolve the issues with his father. Willa pulls the Sun. She's going through a difficult time, but things will improve as she learns to draw on her inner strength. The Hermit, the Tower, and the Empress. All of these are parental figures who will help or hinder Gwilla as she comes to terms with her relationship with Peach. Menagerie goes on to tell two stories. One with the Hanged Man and Justice, who gave birth to the Star, but that the Hanged Man and the Hermit experience tension due to similarities that are currently unclear to the party. Next, a story about the Upright Hierophant and Judgment, and that they were once the same but were severed in a much-needed divorce. And that was when Judgment gave birth to the Star. Menagerie then states that what will happen at the end of the quest and to the Hanged Man is up to the party. Ellie is hurt enough and leaves suddenly, followed shortly by Gwilla. Paeris asks if Menagerie can help Poppy, but Poppy just pecks the Tower card and repeats, "My wife."
So helpful.
That was a cool moment because we had, I think several weeks prior, had a Discord conversation where we were like, what cards would we assign to the Catharsis crew, essentially? And I think the majority of those, the ones that we gave our characters and everything, were ones that you ultimately used in that scene.
They are also the ones that I made into the tarot deck last Christmas.
Yes, which I have hanging in my room. I look at it every night and I love it.
I gotta show you guys the original.
Yes,
I love the original.
They're so pretty. But
I'll treasure them very much.
but that was a very cool moment, especially where it was like, that was really cool.
I also would like to add, just for shits and giggles, I find it funny that Paeris was so offended by the Fool card when, I did choose that card for Paeris. I thought it was very fitting and very appropriate for their character.
That they would be like, I'm not a fool.
Yeah.
But you know they're fool.
They are.
In
for
the
sure.
sense of they are trekking on a journey of self-discovery and getting out of Delulu, as we spoke about before.
Yeah.
Not in the sense of, oh my god, they're an idiot, because they're not. They're smart. They just...
You can be an idiot sometimes.
Yeah, but that's by choice.
I mean,
They're smart enough to not be that, but they choose not to be.
Also, the fact that Lilith is reverse Hierophant and then Bolt is upright Hierophant, indicating, how connected they are. And then the fact there's such a nice symbolic symmetry, parallel foil, whatever you want to call it, between Zephyr and Atticus, who are the opposite sides of the double card.
Yes.
Which I thought was quite lovely.
I am also just really happy that, rehearing the prophecy again, I'm like, oh god, they know half of this stuff now. Good. They put it together, and I didn't need to, because when you do something like that as a master, you don't know how it's gonna read, and you don't know if people are gonna get it, or if it's stupid.
And also that some of those prophecies have already been very much fulfilled.
Yes.
Which was very nice.
meanwhile, Ellie's over here like, Ellie's the moon because she likes outer space.
She likes the moon. But there are reasons why.
Yes, there are.
There are plenty.
Alright, so finish this up.
Yep.
Alright, upon exiting the tent, Paeris attempts to put on Poppy's necklace, hoping to see what she sees and find some answers, but is stopped by Lilith and Gwilla. Gabriel meets them with crepes. Koji then arrives and tells the party that Lady Getsume is ready to see them, and leads them to the Onsen garden through a secret entrance in the back. They meet Getsume in the garden, and she asks for proof they are doing Dottie's bidding by bringing her wares and that they didn't simply steal from her on the road. Dottie corroborates their story with a zipline message. Lilith and Getsume briefly discuss their shared pack with Zephyr, and Getsume asserts that he is a great companion. After a moment, a group of feline tabaxi arrive in the garden with a flying sky whale on a leash.
Da-da-da-da.
A human man follows shortly after and introduces himself as John, an environmentalist and sky pirate, the pilot of the airship the party had seen in the previous days. The whale seems drawn to Ellie's tree arm and shines with moonlight when she pets it. It behaves similarly toward Willa and shines with sunlight before lowering itself into the pond and sucking up water before raining on the plants. The session ends with Getsume inviting the party to stay at the Onsen.
Ooh.
You're up next, Zoe.
Okay.
You did a great job! Hello, my name is...
Jared, 19.
I never fucking learned how to read.
Says the librarian.